Project Excalibur, Kinetic Bombardment. In the hidden corridors of Cold War-era military innovation, where the most audacious and terrifying ideas were conceived, one project stood out as a game-changer. A weapon so powerful that it could strike any target on Earth with the force of a nuclear bomb, but without the radioactive fallout. This was Project Excalibur, a classified initiative that aimed to develop a kinetic bombardment system capable of raining destruction from space. Known colloquially as rods from God, Project Excalibur was not just a theoretical concept. It was an effort to weaponize space in a way that would give the United States unparalleled dominance over global warfare. The origins of Project Excalibur, the pursuit of orbital supremacy. Project Excalibur emerged during the height of the Cold War, as the United States sought ways to maintain its strategic advantage over the Soviet Union. While nuclear weapons had become the ultimate deterrent, the risks of radioactive fallout and global annihilation made them an undesirable option for localized conflicts. Military planners began exploring alternative forms of deterrence, weapons that could deliver devastating destruction without crossing the nuclear threshold. The answer lay in kinetic energy weapons, projectiles that relied solely on speed and mass to inflict catastrophic damage. Project Excalibur envisioned placing tungsten rods, each roughly the size of a telephone pole and weighing several tons, into low Earth orbit, LEO, where they could be deployed on demand. Once released, these rods would re-enter Earth's atmosphere at hypersonic speeds exceeding Mach 10, impacting their targets with the force of a small nuclear explosion. The resulting kinetic energy would be enough to obliterate underground bunkers, missile silos, and even hardened targets buried deep beneath the Earth's surface. How Project Excalibur worked. The mechanics of death from above. The concept was deceptively simple. A constellation of satellite platforms equipped with tungsten rods would be stationed in orbit, waiting silently above potential targets. When a strike was authorized, a rod would be released from the platform and guided toward its target. As it re-entered the atmosphere, the rod's velocity would generate an immense amount of kinetic energy that would be transferred upon impact, vaporizing anything in its path. Unlike conventional weapons, kinetic bombardment required no explosives, no warheads, and no radioactive material. The destruction was delivered purely by the force of impact, making it both surgical and devastating. A single rod, traveling at speeds of over 25,000 kilometers per hour, could penetrate deep into the Earth, making it an ideal weapon for destroying underground command centers, hardened missile silos, and enemy infrastructure. The strategic advantage. Why kinetic bombardment was a game-changer project. Excalibur offered unparalleled strategic advantages. Unlike traditional nuclear weapons, kinetic bombardment did not violate international treaties that prohibited the deployment of weapons of mass destruction in space. Since these weapons relied purely on kinetic energy, they technically fell into a legal gray area, allowing the U.S. to develop them without facing diplomatic repercussions. Moreover, the speed and precision of kinetic weapons made them nearly impossible to intercept. Traditional missile defense systems, designed to intercept slower-moving ballistic missiles, would be rendered useless against hypersonic projectiles hurtling toward Earth from orbit. This made Project Excalibur a first-strike weapon, capable of neutralizing enemy targets before they could retaliate. Testing and development. Was Project Excalibur ever deployed? While Project Excalibur was classified, whispers of its development began to surface in the 1980s, during the Reagan administration's Strategic Defense Initiative, SDI, also known as Star Wars. Officially, SDI focused on creating a missile defense shield to protect the United States from Soviet nuclear attacks. But behind the scenes, some believe that Project Excalibur was an integral part of SDI, with kinetic bombardment platforms being secretly tested and possibly even deployed. Though no public records confirm the successful deployment of Excalibur, former military insiders and aerospace engineers have hinted that test platforms may have been launched under the guise of reconnaissance satellites. Some even speculate that the mysterious X-37B orbital test vehicle, a classified U.S. Air Force spaceplane that has conducted multiple long-duration missions in orbit, may be connected to ongoing research and development of kinetic weapons technology. The implications of Excalibur. A weapon beyond control. If Project Excalibur succeeded, and if elements of its technology were secretly deployed, the implications for global security are staggering. A nation with the ability to strike any target on Earth within minutes using a weapon that cannot be intercepted would hold an insurmountable advantage over its adversaries. Such a capability would allow for preemptive strikes, regime change, and the neutralization of entire military infrastructures without the political and environmental consequences of nuclear war. But the most terrifying aspect of Excalibur lies in its potential for abuse. Without the threat of mutually assured destruction, MAD, that has kept nuclear powers in check for decades, a nation armed with kinetic weapons could operate with near impunity, destabilizing global geopolitics and ushering in an era of unchecked militarization of space. Why was Project Excalibur shelved? Or was it? Officially, Project Excalibur was never fully developed or deployed due to technological and budgetary constraints. But some believe that this narrative was a smokescreen designed to hide the fact that the technology was too dangerous to be acknowledged publicly. Others suggest that Excalibur's development was absorbed into classified black-budget programs, where its deployment could be carried out without public scrutiny. Evidence supporting this theory comes from the resurgence of interest in kinetic bombardment technologies in recent years. Reports have surfaced suggesting that the U.S. Department of Defense is once again exploring hypersonic weapons and space-based platforms capable of delivering devastating strikes with minimal warning. Could these efforts be the continuation of Project Excalibur under a different name? The future of orbital warfare. Are rods from God already operational? As space becomes the next battleground, the specter of Project Excalibur looms large over global security. The rapid militarization of space by the United States, Russia, and China suggests that kinetic weapons may no longer be a theoretical concept. They may already be operational. With hypersonic missile technology advancing at an unprecedented pace and nations seeking dominance in low Earth orbit, the possibility that rods from God are silently orbiting above us becomes more plausible with each passing year. If Project Excalibur was indeed successful, the world may be living under the constant shadow of an invisible weapon capable of delivering extinction-level force at a moment's notice. And as the geopolitical landscape shifts, one question remains unanswered. Are we already living in an era where death can descend from the heavens in the blink of an eye? The truth about Project Excalibur may still be classified, but its legacy lingers. A chilling reminder that the greatest threat to humanity may not come from the stars, but from the silent weapons that already orbit above us, waiting for the moment when they will be unleashed.